Hi, I'm Josh at the Journey Church. We're making our way through Romans Disarmed in order to liberate Paul's letter and our communities in the face of structural oppression. Chapter 9 is Imperial Sexuality and Covenantal Faithfulness. Just a warning that this video involves description of violent and abusive content. With this topic, as with all others, it is important for us to try and understand what is the same and what is different between first century Rome and our own context. The authors show that singling out issues of sexuality for criticism and condemnation is read into the text rather than coming from the text itself. The references to sexuality are within discussions of many other activities and practices that Paul is addressing. And what's more, they argue that his goal is to break down the self-righteous us and them polarities that this topic has so often been used to exacerbate. As with all other topics addressed in this book, the authors contend that to try and make categorical pronouncements without engaging in relationship and dialogue with those most affected by the topic is out of step with the tone and intention of Paul's letter. And this is made all the more challenging if our social history with the topic of sexuality means that we won't necessarily know who in and around our community is most affected by these topics. Horrific sexual practices were widely sanctioned in the Roman world. Rape was celebrated. Women and slaves, both men and women, boys and girls, were regarded as the legitimate objects of the master's sexual gratification. In this arena too, we're hearing a counter-imperial message. These practices were outworked with ideologies about the validity and legitimacy of domination, subjugation, and degradation of bodies. Scholars write that Paul is making explicit allusions to the very top of the empire, the Caesars. One writer at the time said that Caligula had raped almost every woman of rank in Rome, even a bride on her wedding day. His sexual acts also involved men, where again we see violence, humiliation, and degradation of others. A military officer who Caligula had sexually humiliated joined in a conspiracy to kill him, which they did by stabbing him in the genitals. Some believe that Paul is alluding to this when he says that they received in themselves, in their own person, the due penalty for their error. Nero, who was emperor at the time of Paul writing, raped his younger brother before having him murdered. Nero would go out with his own personal security and just molest passers-by. There will, in our communities, I expect, be different and nuanced opinions on various matters of sexuality. And some of us will have more questions than answers. But if these degrading, inhumane ideas and practices are what we're being asked to condemn, I think we can all say aloud, Amen. The references in Paul's letters display no conception that Paul has in mind anything that bears the trace of love, commitment, humanity, and humility. And so we do ourselves no favours when engaging with sexuality and relationships in our own day if we take words that were responding to one thing and apply it to something qualitatively different. While acknowledging sadly that sex and domination are not as uncoupled in our own day as we wish that they were. Going forward, we need to find ways whereby we can engage with the underlying values of Scripture and community, to be proportionate and discerning, to dialogue while really listening, seeking truth in relationship, accumulating diverse experiences for a richer understanding while being patient with people's fears and frustrations. Let's contemplate the meaning of holiness. And let's allow the fruit of people's lives to speak on their behalf and into our own understanding. In the serious topics that this book has said that Paul's good news is tackling head on, what does it mean for us to make the main thing the main thing? Perhaps, above all, we must hold high relationship, showing one another covenantal faithfulness.